Welcome back to Behind the Scarf. You may have noticed that this video is later than I intended, a lot later actually. I envisioned this as a beginning of the month series and now it's nearly a month and a half late, so sorry about that. But I'll work on getting out some ideas going in the next few months. I'd refer to the problems here as teething issues. I actually recorded a live commentary version of this video, actually in June, but the game I was playing, Killing Floor 2, had me really distracted. As such, my answers didn't have a lot of thought put into them, or not as much thought as I think should have been put into them, so I kind of scrapped that whole live commentary idea, at least temporarily, and I've decided to experiment until I find something else that sticks. So this episode is post-commentary with gameplay in the background that I recorded earlier. I know I want this to originally be a Let's Play Q&A hybrid, but I find that kind of difficult to pull off. You're kind of dividing your attention on two different things, and you kind of make a half measure of both. So I'd rather do a full measure on something, on the point of the series in the first place. Anyway, with all that said, I do want to continue with the questions that you have asked in this past month. Continue asking them as much as you like, and by the time the next question thing comes up, you'll be able to see the answer. So let's begin. The first question comes from Weaver of Worlds, who asks, in terms of people you tend to crush on, have you found that you have a type? I would say yes and no. A lot of the people I've liked in my life have been very different from each other, but I do tend to like people who are a little more reserved and introverted, I guess. Not always, but it tends to be the case. For instance, my first TV crush was actually Willow Rosenberg from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, although mostly in the high school seasons, because obviously she was technically, I say quote-unquote, straight back then. But I just found her personality, her quiet personality, to be cute. And that's something that kind of carries over into my actual real-life crushes. But even then, it's not always the case. It just depends, really. There's no solid, sort of, whatchamacallit, theme, I guess. So the second question comes from Grigory Krasikov, who asks, if you can set the universe on fire, what kind of apparatus are you going to use to do that? I don't know if this is a reference to something, so if it is, it's going over my head. But if I had to choose something to burn with, I mean, I'd go with a flamethrower. They're pretty good. The third question comes from Adventure Game Geek, who asks, what do you like most or least about making YouTube videos, and how do you think you've changed over time doing it? So that's an interesting question. What I like most, I think, is having people react to my videos. Pointing out a line that they found funny in the comments, or saying that the video made their day. I mean, that always means a lot to me. That's the most important part, is the viewer interaction. The worst part is probably the lack of support from YouTube themselves. I mean, it's hard to get by these days, and I really don't envy people who are just starting up. They've got a rough uphill battle to the relevancy, which makes some people turn to clickbait and trends, which, it's unfortunate, but the current state of the site doesn't accommodate new and interesting content creators. So I'll miss that. As far as how I've changed, well, you can look at my early videos and see that my style has shifted significantly since I began. I think I have a better grasp of my own style now and the types of things I can do with my videos, whereas my earlier ones are so clearly inspired by other game reviewers at the time in the same style. So I'm actually going to have, if you're a $3 donator, you can see some annotated scripts that will be coming soon from the first season, quote-unquote season of Scarfulu. I'm just working on sorting through those scripts and adding commentaries to them, so that'll be a massive zip file full of all the images from that season and all the scripts from that season and so on. So stay tuned for that if you're a $3 donator. Anyway, next question. So the next question comes from Vitus Varnus, who asked, are there any video games you would ever refuse to review? And if so, which are those? I do think that there are games that are outright harder to review, just on principle. I'd struggle to talk about a real-time strategy game, for instance, but that doesn't mean I'd completely rule out that genre. I mean, I'd like to talk about Populous the Beginning at some point, because it's a pretty nostalgic game for me. And I want to talk about it. It's just a cool game. I like it a lot. I love the music, I love the graphics, I love the gameplay, but it's just not usually the type of game I'd review, and I think it'd be an interesting challenge to go for. I think some games I might avoid entirely are just games that have nothing interesting going for them, just games that are so boring that I can't even make an interesting sort of comedy video about it. We also have another question from Vitus Varnus, who asks, Are you ever afraid to review a game that has already been covered by a fellow YouTuber? And are there any particular ones that you hope to maybe cover someday? See, I used to be quite afraid to do that. However, over time I've come to learn that everyone has something different to say about different games. And especially in game reviews, everyone has their own opinions, you know? So I'm taking a more lax approach to things now. For instance, King's Quest V is a game that's been reviewed by quite a few of my peers, yet I am actually looking forward to having my own video on it soon. I say soon, at some point this year I want to say. And I've also had a script finished up at the Donkey Kong Country TV series from a long time ago. I think I wrote that script back in 2014. But, you know, there was videos from Pro Jared and Dexter Swede. They did videos on that show. So I ended up scrapping that video because I just thought, what if I say things that have already been said? But I might come back to that script someday. I might dig it up and do it. But then again, it might be quite an old style Scarfulu, like a 2013 style Scarfulu, because I started writing that early in 2014. Who knows? It'd be worth a go, I think. So we also have another question from Vitas Varnis. Great guy, asks a lot of questions and helps out a lot of people. You should check him out. He's an actor. Anyway, we put another question, which is, are there any YouTubers that you'd like to give a shout out to, or for anyone to check out? I mean, yeah, sure, I can give some shout outs. For instance, there's someone called Ikifu. He is a point-and-click adventure sort of reviewer, a bit like me, but he's a bit more informative, and his videos are much more well put together, I think. Mine are a bit more harebrained. He's a guy who deserves a lot of attention, so here's a link to his channel. Check out his stuff. He does a series on comparing remasters to the originals. He does like a series on just straight up point and click reviews. And I think he's done some various other things as well. Just check him out. He's a great guy. And he's Scottish, so you can't beat that. Another person I'd like to shout out is Space Quest Historian. He's an all-around great guy. He's been doing this series called YouTube Roundtable, where he gets people from different channels to do little sort of their favourite sort of thing from an adventure game. So like, I did one where it was favourite sort of head-scratching, confusing moments that, where I picked the Phantasmagoria dancers from the second game. So here's a link to that video. But check out his other stuff. He does a lot of Let's Plays, like sort of streams, all that kind of thing. And he's a super nice guy, so also a great factor. I've put their links in the description as well, so check them out. The 7th question comes from Dennis Habulanek. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, please let me know. If you were the head of a games company, what kind of point-and-click game would you make and why? Now, that's a tricky question. What game would I make? I don't really know. Part of me wants to make a supernatural mystery in the vein of Gabriel Knight, and part of me wants to make something a little more Monkey Island in tone, a bit more silly. I mean, I have some ideas, but who knows if they'll ever see the light of day. I mean, if they do, you guys will be the first to know. But who knows? Okay, so I've got 3 questions from Rotten B. The first one is, what are games you would classify as must-plays? I mean, there aren't many to classify as must-plays, but Monkey Island 1 and 2, the Sam and Max games, Half-Life 1 and 2, Gabriel Knight 1 and 2. I suppose those are just games I'm very fond of. Whether they should be considered must-plays, I don't think that should be up to me. They're just games I really like and I think people should play. Another question from Rotten B is, what is your opinion on the mostly point-and-click developer, Daedalic? Daedalic, I haven't played a lot of, honestly, but from what I can gather, they seem a little bit hit and miss. I have played A New Beginning, and that one didn't quite hook me, but I did kind of enjoy the stilted voice acting, because it was pretty funny. There's a line pretty early on where, what's his face? Bent Svensson says, "Away with it." And it's just, the way he says it, it's amusing to me. And it kind of became an in-joke between me and my friends, so. Next question from Rotten B is, what are some countries you'd be eager to travel to in the future? Oh, there are loads. I'm very eager to visit Germany at some point. I mean, I'd like to see the locations featured in Gabriel Knight 2. I've seen some videos of people actually going around those locations, and I'd like to see them myself. So that's definitely one thing, like Neuschwanstein and Herrenchiemsee. I mean, yeah, I'm kind of a huge nerd with that kind of thing, but I do want to see them. I'd also like to see France again. I went to Paris once and it kind of blew my mind. It was pretty great. I don't get to see many cities. I've never been to London before, so seeing somewhere like Paris was like mind blown, you know? So the 11th question comes from Dan Dyer, who says, are there any games you want released for modern PCs a la GOG that have yet to appear, either due to copyright issues or the fact that they'd be extremely niche? I don't really think niche is an issue for GOG, but there are some games I'd like to see on there, like Rama, Shivers, The Neverhood, EcoQuest, Freelancer, Discworld, American McGee's Alice, and the original Prey. Yeah, I did write those down. They're just a few of what I'd like to see. The next question comes from Milan Hoysagems. What's one game you'd rather not tell people you've played and enjoyed? A lot of dating sims and visual novels I'm quite fond of, honestly. Admittedly, I have played Honey Pop, despite its lewd nature. I mean, it's kind of fun. I mean, the idea of a dating sim mashed with a match game, it's pretty unique, and it somehow works. It's not really a game you want to advertise enjoying, but, you know, it's a good game. As much as I hate to admit it. The next question comes from Papeldraka, who asks, do you like real-time strategy games? You might remember earlier I mentioned Popular at the beginning. I do have fond memories of Age of Empires, Age of Mythology, Homeworld, Dawn of War, Warcraft 3. They're cool games. I like real-time strategy games. I don't talk about them often, you know that, but who knows? Maybe I might do a little bit of more discussion on them in the future. The next question comes from Grizzly Guernsey Gamer, who asks, as someone who also creates gaming review content similar to yours, what advice can you give concerning keeping the style of content unique? Keeping your content unique is something you eventually learn by doing. It's not something you can really be taught to do. You find what you do well and you build on those ideas until you find a style that's yours and yours alone. But I mean, don't worry about it right away. Keep making stuff and you'll get there. I didn't think I'd get there and develop my own style, but, you know, now I have my own process and the stuff that I do is really unique to me. At least, I hope it is, and sorry I knocked the mic there. I'm happy with my style, and it's constantly evolving, and I'm happy with the way it's going. So, yeah. So that's it for the questions this month. If you've got any more questions building off these questions, or entirely new questions, feel free to ask them wherever you like. I'll do a post at some point in July asking for more questions. And in the meantime, let me know what you think of this new format. And I might actually come up with a new thing to talk about, actually. So, see you again very soon. There'll be a third episode this month as well to make up for the one that I missed last month. So, stay tuned.